Okay, let's go.
Hello, everyone. Nikita here from Huobi Global, and I'm very excited about this episode because today we will be introducing Nikita Sigaluk, which is one of the most recognized personalities at the moment in Web3. And I'm gonna let him fully introduce himself because he will introduce himself better than I will do.
GM, everyone. I'm extremely happy to be here today at Huobi's podcast with my friend. My friend with whom we've been in chat for a while. We've been planning to organize this podcast for some long time when I was back in London, and voila, we're here. I'm extremely happy to be here. As Michaela just introduced, briefly myself, I'm a very organized personality in Web3. Me, myself, I'm a Web3 social contract engineer, basically a person who knows almost everyone from VCs, from artists, from startups all around the world, who is trying to connect all of them for efficient and sustainable ecosystem development. Recently, I also started my own podcast called We in Web3 on YouTube, where Michaela is also invited later this year. And a couple of weeks ago, together with our common friend Hannah, I started also a RugRadio show called OriGensXYZ with a couple of few first guests from the UK. That's basically about myself. Happy to be here once again.
Good. What about let's jump into the topic that everyone would like to discuss, which is basically the role of a community in Web3. And I think that because you have been involved with so many NFTs projects in the space, you know more than anyone the value of it. So I would like to ask you first of all, what is the role of a community in a Web3 project? And maybe after that, if you can give us some tips in general to create one strong, solid community in Web3, that would be great.
Absolutely. I do believe when we started discussing with you what should be the topic for our episode, like community, it was not even a question for me. Like, as far as I remember myself in Web3, people in Web3, people who are developing this space by people, for people, that's something that fascinated me the most all the time. And how traditional brands entering this space and focusing not only on financial aspect of the space, how it has been in traditional business for hundreds of years, but also this community aspect. That's something that I'm a huge fan. For me, community is belongingness to one big project driven by community, driven by one mission, vision of people who contribute to it regardless of market condition, whether it's bull market, bear market. It's not about when Lambo or we're gonna make it. It's more about actually building something that might have not that much value for other people, but it means a lot to you, and you are devoting your time, devoting your energy, your resources to building this project. I do believe that right now, during the, let's call it the first bear market for NFTs, we're going to see who out of these communities will actually stay as a community. Because right now, majority of NFT projects, and you can remember, like during the peak of this January, February, majority of this project have around 10K supply, around 7-8K people joining the space, and they all are driven by different vision, different goals. Community for me is something smaller. It can start even with 5 people, 10 people building the smaller project that is going to solve some problems in the Web3 space, whether in the financial aspect of it or data-driven, identity further on, regardless, once again, whether the price is up or down. Some of the biggest tips from my standpoint regarding community is to focus on long-term longevity of the project, not something that would pump your price right now for you to exit, for you to cash out, but actually something that will bring more value in the sense of people. More celebrities joining your project, more developers, more OGs in the space. Because at the end of the day, there are like 20, maybe 30 people who are truly driving this whole Web3 crypto aspect. I'm not talking about people like the recent news of FTX, people who are pursuing their own interests, but actually people who might be quietly building something smaller that you don't know right now, but at the same time they're interested in supporting other projects. For example, Cosimo Medici. We might not know who is Cosimo Medici, or not many people know who is G-Money, but those people are supporting smaller projects that correlates with their own vision for this space. So my tip would be building something with people you trust right now, building something long-term, not just for the sake of existence, but for the sake of actual usage in 10, 15, 20 years from now, because Web3 space is still early, and I would highly suggest people to build something right now that they would prefer to use in 20 years from now without being annoyed or forced to do so.
Yeah. And what about the biggest mistakes that you think that people there commit? The biggest mistakes that, or the biggest no's that are there in terms of building a community? And I think that you already named one, which is basically, I think that one of the one that you named a few minutes ago is community doesn't like, or the space doesn't like when a company acts for itself. I think that's clear, and that can damage the community. But what other big no's do you think that are out there in terms of creating a community?
Yeah, I do believe that first of all, that's the short-term versus long-term narratives. When you have the plan for this short-term, but you don't have any ideas what the project stands for, what is its vision, it's definitely a red flag. On the other hand, when you have when you plan your project for the next couple of years, that's also really strange for me, at least, because the space is moving so fast. You don't know what is going to be relevant in a couple of weeks, maybe even days from now. So I would say that you need to have clear goals in the short term, but at the same time, you need to have this community-driven vision, not vision driven by your own ego, but actually building for these people something that, as I already mentioned before, will be relevant in years to come. That's number one. Another big red flag would be poorly executing team. And when I'm saying poorly executing, that's basically the team who is not communicating with its community. Team who is not interested in getting feedback from people, whether it will be some AMAs on Discord, whether it will be Twitter Spaces or in real life events. Take, for example, NFT NYC. Like, we both just came from NFT London, the first European NFT NYC conference. There are a lot of smaller communities, smaller Web3 gaming projects, smaller crypto projects that were there to actually connect with their community users, to get some feedback, to adjust on it, to have some conversations, to interview people, to show that the community voice actually matters, that what people say and what people want is exactly what the team is building. Whenever I see it, it's a green flag for me. Whenever I don't see it and I see that the team itself is driven by some other interest other than building this for these people who are users of this project, especially if we're talking about thousands of people. You cannot build the project only for like 5 people if you have thousands of users. That would be another red flag.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you. And again, I think that takes us to the next point, which is basically built by people for people. It seems like that's your formula specifically. Do you think that that's the way we're going? That's going to be the aura that we're going to be experiencing from now on in the space, building by people for people?
Exactly. That's at least that's my slogan for my podcast, We in Web3, and that's the way how I approach this space. There's a lot of people who are smart enough to build their own blockchain, to build their own protocols, but without users, without actual user case, it worth nothing. So I do believe that this space should be built for people who are eagering to develop something for masses, not just for a smaller group of people, because one thing that crypto space, that Web3 space is lacking right now is traction, success traction of people coming there and people staying here. Right now we have 3, 5, maybe 10 million, thanks to Reddit, users who recently joined us, but it's still nothing compared to Web2, to internet. Here we're talking about billions of people. And the question is how to make sure that those billions of people come in the next 10, 15 years, they stay in this space, they enjoy the space, and they actually use the space. And the answer from my side would be to build something that is needed for people. How internet solved our problem? Internet is the biggest search engine. Internet is a way how you can build your brand, build your identity in a matter of minutes. Like take, for example, web pages like Wix, where you can create your web page in a matter of minutes. You can go to Instagram, create your social media. Voila, your brand is there. Now you need a product which you can buy from AliExpress or whatsoever. You start reselling it. The same goes to Web3. We need to give some meaning of some purpose of meaningfulness in Web3 for people, so that they understand that this space is not just about crypto, it's not just about investors, traders, or whatever. It actually for people to come here, for people to co-create. And when you are a member of a community, once again, whether it's a small proposal on Discord, whether it's actually you meeting the co-founder of the project in real life and giving some smaller tips on having a conversation, that's the way how you become a co-creator of this project. And I do believe that the biggest difference between Web 2 and Web 3 space is that in Web 2 space, you as a founder, you as a director of the project, you need to wear multiple hats. You need to be a founder, you need to be a partnership director, you need to be a good in marketing at the same time. In Web3, the beauty of the space is that you are giving all these roles to people who are interested in these projects, people who are coming to you to ask whether they can be moderators of your Discord for free because they're interested in your project or they want one of these 10K NFTs of yours. People who are joining you because they share the same vision and they want to build something special. So I do believe that Web3 space is all about people. It's not only about money, of course, it's going to stay here, especially when more traditional brands can enter it, but it's even more about people who use these technologies, this digital asset, digital land, because right now we have a lot of everything. We have lands all around the world, sandbox, Decentraland, etc. We have digital assets. We have like millions of digital sneakers, but there is no use case for those. There is no people who want to use them. You need to give some rights to people and you need to empower them to use the platform.
That I love the fact that you actually bring that little quote that says no one has a reason to use them. A few days ago, I read this article that said that the metaverses are exceptional in terms of what they're building at the moment, and the future looks good on them. But at the moment, they're not active users on the platform. What do you think? Why do you think this is happening? Why do you think the users are not using those platforms? I'm not gonna say names, of course, but why do you think that's happening, and how can that change? Because of course we do need game changers that are able to absorb and bring those users to those metaverses. Otherwise, I mean, that's going to be more harm than good in this bear market.
Exactly. I do believe that we're reading the same reports with you. Also, not going to give any names, but that's the problems that we have right now. I want to just quickly give some shout out to my friends who are actually innovating the space from Sandbox, Sebastian Berger, Mo, from Decentraland, Giovanni Graziosi. They're doing an amazing work. There is no even a question, an issue with what they're doing. They're trying to put people from this physical world into the digital world, but also create some fun aspect, create some experience for them to interact with people. The only problems that we're having right now, that there is too little people in the space who are actually interested, who see some value in it. And that's perfectly fine. That's called adoption. Adoption, it took like internet 5-7 years before people actually started using internet. People think that internet was created like the last years of 1990s. No, internet was created even before that. The thing is that not many people knew about it. Usually it was some kind of geeks who had this huge computers, expensive computers. The same goes for Web3 right now. It's too complicated for a general user to understand it. You need to create your own wallet, whether it will be through Ledger, through MetaMask. You need to remember this seed phrase. What on earth is it? Like, why do I need to use it? Where do I buy crypto? Do I need to use crypto? Can I use my credit card, debit card? There is too many different questions that people cannot understand right now, and people are addressing when entering the space. What we need in the space to make sure that all this digital land, all these NFT projects, all these crypto platforms, apart from money, they also see some use case for people for this mass adoption, is called education. We need education in the space. We need simple explanation for people, maybe even some kind of reports coming mainly from these OGs and biggest companies. Companies like Ledger, that is doing amazing in sense of education about security. Companies like Sandbox, companies like Binance. We need more of their leaders coming to conferences and explaining not some complicated stuff about the usage of different layers, about recent drug pools, but actually we need them to explain how to protect yourself from any problems and why the Web3 space is the future. One of the questions that I'm asking my guests whenever they come to We in Web3 is, how would you explain to a general user why Web3 is the future, why to use it? That is the things that all of us need to ask ourselves, because if you, being in the Web3 space, cannot explain to yourself why Web3 space, why NFTs, why crypto, or whatever you believe in here is the future, there is no way you're going to bring your husband, your grandmother, your friends, etc. So it all comes from us acknowledging why the space is needed, and then us educating people and helping them to bring into the space. Not just being a one-player team, but actually cooperate in the space.
Yeah, and that's something that I agree with you is that, or at least I have experienced it myself. We tend to make things too difficult, and then one thing that is definitely lacking in the space, as you well mentioned, is the fact that how would you explain in very easy words how to enter the metaverse, for example? And that's something I was speaking with the CEO of Exclusible a few days ago, and it's very interesting how the majority of corporations and the majority of people out there, they don't know that they don't need a VR glass or VR glasses to enter the metaverse. And I think if we start with small things like that, like, hey, you don't need a VR glasses to get into the metaverse. You don't need a very complicated onboarding process to get into the metaverse. It's as simply as click that link, put your name in it, choose your avatar, and just get yourself immersed in the experience. And I think that's lacking, as you well said. It's not about how deep it goes. Is let's focus first on the first stage, which is educating on simple processes like onboarding, and then probably we'll see more users in the metaverse. I completely agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, as an NFT brand consultant in this space, I have a lot of this type of discussions with traditional brands, some traditional startups who are entering the space and trying to understand why do they need to use NFTs for ticketing, NFT for loyalty program development, etc. What's the metaverse? I do believe that the biggest problems that happened to us exactly 1 year ago, end of last October 28th, if I'm not mistaken, is announcement of Meta. Facebook becoming Meta. That is something that changed the way of thinking people in the wrong direction. They associate metaverse with Meta. Every 10th company right now in traditional brand either have this Meta prefix in wording, in slogan, or they're trying to use this in positioning and vision for their brand on social media, in their reports, etc. Everyone is trying to be the first one in Meta because they remember how it was with the internet, but that's not the right approach. I do believe what Meta showcase us is one of the way how metaverse can be created. But if you take a look at Meta, like a year has passed, nothing has been done. Like the recent quarterly reports indicated that there was a huge billions of losses, specifically in the metaverse department, and it's questionable right now whether it's going to be developed as it was planned before or not. So forget about Facebook, forget about Meta. That's one of potential ways how it might work. But even if the company, $1 trillion, not that recent ago, company like Facebook, if company like this cannot create this metaverse yet, it means that's not the way how the metaverse is going to work, at least for now. I do believe that VR glasses, AR glasses, that's one of the direction, as you said, how it can go. But it can be much more simplified. In my own understanding, metaverse is something that we're experiencing right now. And COVID, with all this work from home, with all these restrictions, actually fastened this physical to digital transition. In my own words, metaverse is living your life in digital realm, not just because it's fun, because it's some kind of game, but because it's a part of your life. Whenever we're having a call, right now we're having a call through Zoom with you. That's in a certain way metaverse. Do not expect us to wear VR glasses. Do not expect us, to stand in front of some scan or whatsoever. We're connecting in a digital world. And it might be complicated for people to understand it, but that's how it works.
Yeah, the CEO of Exclusible told me exactly that a few days ago. He told me, like, people are already using the metaverse without them knowing that they're using the metaverse, because Zoom is somehow a forced approach to it. It's just that now with platforms such as Spatial, for instance, people are able to speak, collaborate, and have discussions in a more interactive way. But it's not far away or more difficult than that. It's actually, if we have experience on Zoom, we will easily manage any other metaverse platform out there. Of course, metaverses have 10x the functionalities because they're built for that, but it's not going to be a difficult process, and that's exactly what you said is key for people to understand. Yeah. What about traditional brands?
Exactly. I do believe we have this a couple of second pause. Yeah, go on. All good. Go on.
Yeah, no, I was about to say apologies. I do think that there is a lag, but now with traditional brands, now that you have been consulting a few traditional brands in the space, what are the first steps that you recommend them to take when they want to do a transition between Web 2 and Web 3? How do you help Web 2 brands to transition in the Web 3 space, taking into account that regardless of the background, regardless of the sector of that company, how would you help them to transition in a very easy way?
Yeah, step number one would be to be patient. Don't try to rush things when no one actually knows what the Web3 space is about. Like, you're working with crypto for a long time. I'm working with NFTs for a long time. But if anyone asks us right now what the future holds, most probably the question will be, we don't know. And people would say, how? You work in this field. How you don't know? This space is completely different. Like what happened to FTX, because that's one of the recent cases here, number 2 exchange out there, just going down like this. It happens to NFT projects every day, and we don't know about it. It happens to smaller coins every day, and we don't know about it. So don't try to rush the space. Try to enjoy, try to learn. A lot of traditional brands, like luxury brands especially, they're trying to enter the space now with that easy money. And yes, it is an easy money, of course, but make sure that people who are buying these, people who are entering the space because of you, they also understand that for you, it's just a money-making mechanism. There is no utility that is coming later on, and that's for majority of traditional brands entering the space right now. You just want to create this digital. If you address it, that's perfectly fine. If you want to move in a different direction, if you want to innovate, if you want to have something new, be patient. Look at what brands are doing right now. When you are being patient, make sure that you are ready to risk, because the whole space is risky. Not only crypto, not only NFTs, everything we're doing here is risky because no one actually knows what it is. It's a certain type of experiment that you and me are full-time in, that you and me also backed up by some personal beliefs, personal vision, but at the end of the day, it's an experiment. We don't know whether it's going to be called metaverse in 5 years from now, whether it's going to be VR glasses or whatsoever. So be patient and be ready to risk. And perhaps the last thing here would be to make sure that you innovate. Majority of, let's take NFT projects once again, because it's easier how this brands move to Web3 space. Majority of NFT projects right now have the same features, the same utilities, the same roadmap behind it. We're going to have a merchandise in 2 months from now. Wow, cool hoodies. After that, we're going to organize some in real life event in metaverse, sandbox or whatever you choose. Then we're going to have our PFPs that will be different from what we have right now. It's all cool, but I do believe that the time goes, and the time in Web3 goes faster than a traditional brand, and you need to innovate. Something that was relevant half a year ago, something that people were hyped about a year ago, it's not going to work right now. There is going to stay these traditional things like PFPs, especially historical PFPs. There is going to stay some utilities like in real life event, but it's really challenging for you to compete with Bored Ape Yacht Club, for example, who invite Snoop Dogg and Eminem to their in real life event, and you having like a coffee chat with 20 people. It's not something that people most probably would love. Some, yes, but majority of Web3 space, not. And we also don't want to associate the whole Web3 space with some of these smaller perks. It's good to have this t-shirt. It's good to have this some kind of small real event or some kind of airdrop, but we don't want to spoil people, because what I see right now specifically in crypto and NFT space is that people are spoiled. People are waiting for the coin to go like plus 20% overnight because someone like Elon Musk tweeted about it. People are spoiled because they expect every project to multiply their money, and sometimes they don't understand that they're playing with real money. Sometimes they're doing it in real life with real money that can go to zero really easily. That would be my suggestions.
Yeah, no, and you couldn't be more accurate in that last point, in which people don't realize that these are real projects, real teams, real funds, and every time that they're expecting those updates to happen, or each time they try to trade it, they don't know the right risk management procedures for this, and they don't even know how to trade the asset properly, or with all respect. And I think that I would like to see more consultants in the space like you that are educating people on how to treat that asset, regardless of being an NFT, regardless of being an airdrop, how to treat that with respect, how to take the most out of it. And again, not expect everything for free. See how can you manage that asset and the benefits around that asset in the best possible way. And that's something that is tremendously lacking in the space. I realized in NFT London that a lot of people were there only, as you said, for the POP material. So for, again, very superfluous things that were not the nitty-gritty of Web3, instead of focusing on the tech, instead of focusing on the actual asset tech, or and that needs to change. And I like that people like you are right now educating and giving awareness about this. How would you change that mindset? That mindset of I would say the 80% of people in the Web3 space, or entering the Web3 space, which are there only for superfluous topics, but they're not going deeper. They are not. What would you change on their mindset? How would you, as you said before, what would be those topics in their syllabus that they need to learn and immerse themselves at in order to change that concept that they have of the space?
Absolutely love the question. First of all, I would say that people actually need to go through this process, ups and downs. I do believe, I'm not trying to empower people to lose some money or to get into some rug pulls or whatever, but I do believe that in a certain way, that's a discipline that you need to go through, because you reading some Twitter threads about this being good and this being bad, that's perfectly fine. But you need to define for yourself what is good and what is bad. Perhaps some people are much stronger into trading. They're not interested into the technology itself. We cannot force them to do what they're not interested to. So I would say that everyone needs to go through this process, like starting from the bottom. What the things that fascinates him or her in this space. For me, it's definitely the technology behind blockchains, the technology behind NFTs. It's not one specific NFTs that I like. It's not like one specific aspect of NFTs that I like, but it's more driven voting mechanism for digital identities that is allowed through soulbound tokens. For example, you being the owner of your document, of your license, and no one can ever steal, no one can ever buy it from you, etc. Or maybe some NFTs as a ticketing system, like you owning these 10 NFTs to your meetup and granting some long-term benefits to your users. If you think that fascinates me the most, and that's something that I got interested in. I do believe that for people, it's really crucial to understand what stands behind all these big brands, all these big projects. Like, what is this thing on the blockchain that works that efficiently, or for some inefficiently right now, but will work later on? What is the things that we as humans and government will be using like 5-10 years from now? What is the things that all these big brands like Gucci, BMW, Nike, etc. are talking about right now? You need to understand what will be the future, what the future holds from now. And the best way would be to educate yourself. There are a lot of resources. The easiest and the best one is just to dive with your head into one or few communities. Communities like Ledger. Ledger is not about selling some PFP. Ledger is about security. Ledger is about building this community of people who are interested in helping each other. Go to their Discord, ask questions, go to their AMAs. I also believe that mass adoption is not going to happen before bigger entities. Here I'm talking about institutional investors. Here I'm talking about banks. Government, at the end of the day, will start educate people. Right now, here in Latvia, a lot of people are asking me, like, what is happening? We don't have, like, almost any meetups. We don't have any news about crypto, etc. People need to understand, like, general audience, like grannies in their 50s, I don't know, like kids in their 15s, etc. They need to at least understand that it's not only about rug pulls and scams, even though right now the space looks like it's one, but still there is some technology behind it, and it's going to take us many years before like the first legislation, taxation, rules, etc. going to be defined before we can say that this space is safe. It's not that safe right now, but you need to play safe, and for you to play safe, you need to educate yourself. You need to grow with like-minded people around you and uplift each other. Because one thing that I mentioned earlier today, this space is not about competing. Of course you can compete. Of course you can become a millionaire with an ideal idea, etc. But at the end of the day, what matters is building this space for people, by people, for people. And the way you ensure so is by complementing each other, by explaining complicated things to each other, by advising each other, by giving some suggestions and helping each other to grow in this space. And the beauty of this space is that regardless of your background, whether you are a student, and here I'm referring to our good friend Benjamin, a 13-year-old genius from London, or you're someone older, someone without high education or whatever, you're welcome in this space. Because if you have this idea, if you know how to design it, vision, or even coding skills, you're welcome here. Just share your thoughts, just share your ideas. We're building all of it together, not each of us individually.
Yeah, I pretty much agree, and that's the what I got from you since I've first known you. That you have wanted the best for the community in a very genuine way, and I hope there are more people in the space like you. I hope that the space is surrounded with more consultants with your vision. Thank you so much. Nikita, unfortunately our time is up, but I would like to say thank you for your time, for so good advices on the Web3 space. This is only encouraging me to invite you again for a second episode. From Huobi Global Exchange, we give you our sincere gratitudes for being here, and yeah, looking forward for the next episode.
Thank you very much. I absolutely appreciated being here. I want to say also thank you to our friend Cecilia, who organized all of it, the team behind Huobi, who is organizing this event. I'll be happy to come to your podcast later next year to reflect on what we have discussed here. And for people who also want to hear more of my story and hear some feedback from Michaela's side, I'm inviting you to We in Web3 episode that is going to launch with Michaela later this year in December. It's going to be really hot. You're going to love it.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much. For sure, it's going to be a good one, that one as
Thank
well.
you.
And yeah, have a good day.
Have a good day. See ya.